Visualisation, a key to your questions, is the second in our series of basic advocacy videos. You'll recall that in our first video, we looked at how you could control the place in which you worked as an advocate. In this video, we're looking at how, by using visualisation inside your head, you'll be able to ask much better questions. Much better questions when questioning your own witness, that's chief or direct, and much better questions also when you are questioning the other side witness, that's cross-examination. Now, this notion of visualisation can be described as follows. First of all, you will find, looking back through your memory, that you can always create a picture inside your head of some event that you either witnessed or in which you took part. You can see that picture as a whole picture, and if you try hard enough, you can see it in colour. Think of any such picture as something that you want to recreate with a witness when you're questioning them. But of course, since we're using words to create the picture, you need to think of the exercise as rather like a jigsaw puzzle. That is, you look at the picture and then you must ask a series of questions such that the whole picture is built up by the succession of answers that the witness gives to you and the other audiences. We can think of that picture, that still picture, as being a two-dimensional picture. That, however, isn't enough. What you're always trying to do as an advocate is to have the audiences see a picture the way you want them to see it. That is, you want an aspect or aspect of the picture to come up into strong view, whilst you want other aspects of the picture to disappear into the background, possibly so much that they're hardly seen at all. This concept of depth or 3D reflects your prioritisation in the story that you elicit from each and every witness. When you've mastered the two-dimensional and three-dimensional skill, what you'll then move on to, which is something beyond what we're trying to do in this early basic advocacy video. What you'll move on to is creating a moving picture over time, that fourth dimension. Quite literally, what you're doing then is asking questions that elicit answers in such a way that the audience feels that they're in the historical picture, that they're moving through the sequence of pictorial sites with which the witness was engaged at the time. To illustrate visualisation, we're going to use a nursery rhyme with which you've been familiar since you were very small. It's Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Then Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after. That's the story. It will be the background of the questions that you'll hear advocates asking the witnesses. However, we're now adding an important backstory to the nursery rhyme. What you probably didn't know until now was that Jack and Jill were in a relationship. And on the morning that led to the nursery rhyme, Jill had discovered that Jack was two-timing her. Naturally, this made her very upset. So upset, in fact, that she felt that his betrayal of her warranted revenge from her. This is what happened. She carried up the hill, as she walked up with Jack that morning, a long pole. A pole that the two of them usually used to share the task of carrying the heavy pail of water down the hill. But on this day, at least according to the state's case, she didn't share the lifting with Jack. Instead, she let him fill the pail by himself while she stood distantly and silently by. She then let him carry it in front of his body with both hands, and then, at an opportune moment, came up behind him quietly and put the edge of the pole between his ankles so that he tripped forward, spilling all the water down the hill, thereby making it a much slipperier surface. He broke his crown, revenge accomplished. Then, realising that she could be in trouble for what she'd done, Jill cleverly thought up a decoy. She tumbled after. That's the backstory. We start here by showing prosecutor Sonia asking her witness, the hapless victim Jack, about his relationship with Jill and what happened on the day of the incident.
Jack, what is your name?
My name is Jack.
What is your occupation?
I'm a water gatherer.
And where do you live?
I live number 1 Magic Castle Road, Magic Castle.
Jack, I'm now going to ask you some questions about your relationship with Jill. What is the nature of your relationship with Jill?
She was my girlfriend.
And did you have a good relationship with her?
Yes, we had a happy relationship.
Has it always been a happy relationship?
Until lately, when I two-timed her.
What happened when you two-timed her?
There was another woman, and during that process, Jill didn't know that I was also going out with her.
So, when did Jill find out that you were two-timing her?
It was the night before we were scheduled to go out for our weekly water gathering.
How did Jill react when you told her, or when she found out that you were two-timing her?
She was quite upset when she found out.
And how did you know she was upset?
She was crying. She threw things at me, and she was generally not speaking with me for the rest of the night.
Do a topic change now, Sonia, to the events of the day of the incident.
Jack, I'm now going to bring you to the next morning, which is the day of the incident.
Sure.
How was your relationship before you went out to collect your pail of water?
She was still not talking with me.
What happened on the day you went to collect the pail of water?
Well, it was just the usual. We both picked up our equipment and walked up that hill.
What kind of day was it? Was it sunny? Was it rainy? Was it foggy?
It was a sunny day.
As you were walking up the hill with Jill, did she talk to you?
No, we were silent.
Did she show any other signs of how she felt towards you at the time?
It's bad practice to start questions with did or do or does. They are either too leading or suggestive in your examination in chief direct, and they are too uncontrolling in cross.
No, because she was just walking behind me, and it was a narrow slope, and there were steps. I was mainly concentrating on carrying my equipment and not falling down or anything.
Now here is an example of where we have to draw out more detail. Our witness has told us that Jill was walking behind him and that there was no conversation, and that he was focusing on what he was doing. We still haven't got out whether Jill was carrying anything, and if so, what it was. We need to do everything possible to set up the necessary conditions through him and your questions to make it clear that she had the time to think about revenge and think about a means of executing it on their way up the hill. That may mean you need to backtrack a little bit, but take it up from wherever you like.
Jack, you said that Jill was walking behind you. How far behind you was she walking?
It was hard to tell because I was not looking behind me when I was walking up the narrow, steep slope.
Did you know if she was holding anything in her hands as she was walking up the hill?
Just an interruption there. Sonia's just asked a "did you know" question. Now, as far as possible, we want to avoid any questions that begin with the D word, did or does. So try to get the question out without starting with a D word.
How far was Jill behind you?
I was unsure because I was not looking behind me and I was trying to keep my balance.
As you were walking up the hill, did Jill hold anything?
Now we have another D question. The way around it is, as you were walking up the hill, what, if anything, was Jill carrying in her arms?
Jack, I'll rephrase that. As you were walking up the hill, what, if anything, was Jill holding in her hands?
I believe I was holding the majority of things. She had the stick that we used to carry the water down. She was holding that.
So she was holding the stick,
Yes.
and you were holding the pails.
All the pails and the equipment and everything.
Now you must ask him a question or questions so that he describes the stick so that all of us can see the stick in our own minds.
Jack, what is the stick that Jill was holding usually for?
The stick was usually so we could each hold one pail of water and use the stick to balance it on our shoulders as we went up down the mountain with the full pails of water.
How long was the stick?
It was, I think, around 2.5 meters.
And remembering what we did in commanding the space, can you ask that question again so that he gives the distance in terms of a visual that the audience can appreciate?
Jack, in lengths of the table that you are sitting on, how long was the stick?
I would say it would be around 2.5 lengthwise in terms of how long this table is.
We're now going to change to Emma taking on some questions for the next phase of this, how did the accident happen?
Once you reached the top of the hill, what did you do?
I proceeded with the process of filling up the 2 pails with water.
After you filled the pails of water, what did you do then?
I carried them in front of me because Jill would still not talk to me and she wouldn't carry the pails of water.
So you began to descend the mountain?
I started walking down the steps with the 2 pails held out in front of me.
Okay. At that point, what could you see of your feet at the time?
Well, I couldn't because the 2 pails were held in front of me and they were blocking my view.
Okay. As you started to descend the mountain with the buckets of water, what did you feel on your legs?
Well, from the start, I felt nothing, but there was a point where I felt something was put in between my legs.
Okay. What did it feel like? Was it hard?
It felt like to me a long stick.
After you felt this stick between your legs, what happened?
So, since I was already so unstable with the 2 pails of water, I immediately tumbled down the steep rocky steps.
And after you tumbled, were you injured at all?
Yes, I fell on my head and I broke my crown.
Okay. At that point, do you know where Jill was? Or were you aware of where Jill was?
No, I had no idea. She was behind me the whole time and I was tumbling down the steps.
Thank you for that, Emma. Very soon, Edmund, as the defence counsel in this case, is going to ask his client, the defendant, Jill, for her version of what happened. In case you're thinking, but we haven't had any cross of Jack yet, we've decided for this teaching video to do all of the questioning, direct in-chief questioning in one go, and then move to the cross. Note, however, that because Jill has been in the courtroom as the defendant while all of Jack's evidence has been taken, it is permissible, indeed it's a good idea, for Edmund to quickly get from Jill, using closed questions, those facts about which she is in agreement with Jack. So you'll hear a series of closed questions from Edmund first until he gets to a point or points of difference with Jack's story, when he will properly go back to an open question format.
Please state your name.
Jill.
And Jill, where do you live?
I live at I live at 3 now, Magic Castle Road, Magic Castle.
And what is your occupation?
I'm a water carrier.
Okay, thank you. Let's now go to your relationship with Jack. Your relationship with Jack, used to be that of a boyfriend and girlfriend relationship.
Yes, that's right.
And you heard, or you found out that he was two-timing you, right?
Yes, I did.
And you were quite angry at that information, right?
Of course.
Okay.
You've just seen the advocate saying, right? That's a slip. Avoid using it, just as you will avoid okay, or yes.
Now, Jill, let's go to the day that you were carrying the water up the hill. What things did you bring with you as you carried the water up?
Well, Jack was carrying the pails and I was carrying the piece of wood that we normally use to carry the pails.
And how was your relationship on that morning?
It was a little tense, I would say.
And were you at all speaking with each other when you were walking up the hill?
No, I didn't want to say anything to him. I didn't even want to be near him, but I had to be there because it was my job.
And what happened to you as you got up to that hill?
Well, Jack went to get the water out of the well, and I stood a little way off because I just didn't even want to be anywhere near him.
And once Jack had finished with the gathering of the water, what happened next?
I heard him starting to go down the hill again.
Now, you have heard from Jack before that he has said it was you who put the stick between his legs to trip him. What do you say to that?
That's completely not true. I don't know why he would say that.
And so, what happened after what you just said?
Well, I heard him stumble, and I think I heard him fall, so I turned around and I saw him falling down a hill, so I quickly ran towards him to stop him from falling. And I slipped on all the water that he'd spilled and fell right down after him.
And what happened next?
We were at the bottom of the hill and Jack was injured and I didn't know what to do.
Okay, thank you, Jill.
That completes the direct or the examination in chief. We'll now move to showing how visualisation is also important for an effective cross-examination. In this first illustration of some cross, Emma, acting for the defendant, is cross-examining Jack, the alleged victim, called by the prosecution. Emma is going to try and use visualisation to put into your mind, the audience's mind, some ideas about why Jack might have invented the idea that it was Jill's fault not his, that he tripped and broke his crown. As far as possible, Emma will be trying hard to use really short questions of a sort that put ideas into your minds.
So, on the morning you went to fetch water with Jill, you said a bit earlier that you were carrying the majority of equipment up the hill.
Yes, I was.
And Jill made you do all the work, basically.
She did.
And while you were collecting water, Jill didn't help at all.
No, she didn't.
And you felt frustrated about this.
I did.
And as you were walking down the hill and you tripped, you felt perhaps still quite angry at Jill.
I was very angry.
And when you realised that you had been injured, you were especially angry at Jill.
I was.
This is a skill that develops with practice. So Emma's going to have another go this time and see whether she can do it better.
So on the morning that you went to fetch water with Jill, you said you were carrying the majority of equipment up the hill.
I was.
You would say that you were doing the majority of the work.
Yes.
Even while you were gathering the water, Jill didn't help you at all.
No, not at all.
And when you tripped, Jill wasn't around.
No. She wasn't.
And it's convenient that she was there.
Yes.
Because then you easily have someone to blame.
Well, I wouldn't. Yes.
You wouldn't just be saying that you tripped clumsily.
I don't know. Yeah, okay, yes.
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 Just like this advocate, never be afraid of silence. Just take that sip of water, think, get your thoughts together, and go ahead.
After you fell,
Right.
Jill was next to you.
She was on the ground with me.
So you don't know at all where Jill was from the time when you tripped and the time that you came to injured.
Yeah, well, no, I didn't see her at that time. No.
Okay.
Here's another example of this cross. Jack, you didn't like the way Jill was treating you as you went up that hill that day, did you?
No.
Because whatever it was that you'd done, you didn't think she should treat you like that, did you?
No.
She gave you no help at all.
None at all.
She left you to carry most of the stuff up the hill.
Yes.
She left you to pull up all the water in the pail from the well by yourself.
Yes.
She left you to carry the full pail.
Yes.
You were not happy with Jill, were you?
No, I wasn't.
And as you started to go down the hill, you didn't have any feelings of positive nature towards Jill, did you?
No.
And then you fell
Yes, I did.
heavily.
Yes,
You broke your crown,
I did.
making a bad morning even worse.
Yes.
And then it occurred to you,
Right.
Jill might have done this didn't it?
Yes.
Because if Jill had done that to you, you'd feel better about having two time to her.
Well, I guess.
You'd sort of feel that a girlfriend who deliberately tripped you on a hill deserved to be two time.
I can agree with that.
Because you never saw her behind you, did you?
No.
What you told us about was that you had a feeling.
Yes,
A feeling of a piece of wood between your ankles.
Right.
A feeling that was on top of your feeling of deep resentment.
Yes.
Your feeling of anger.
Yes.
Anger that she hadn't done the decent thing and said, you go and two time all you like, Jack.
Right.
In this second example, we have Sonia as the prosecutor cross-examining the defendant, Jill. What she's doing is turning the facts on their head so as to try and show the audience that Jill had a very real motive for revenge and an irresistible opportunity to take it.
Jill, the night before the incident, when Jack told you he was two-timing you, you were angry.
Yes.
The next morning, before you set up the hill, you were still angry.
Yes, I was.
In fact, you were so angry that you didn't walk with Jack, did you?
No, I didn't.
As you were walking up, you didn't even talk to Jack, did you?
No.
In fact, you weren't helping Jack at all.
No.
Because, as you said in your examination in chief, you didn't want to be anywhere near him.
Yes.
So, as you walked up the hill and got to the well, Jack took the pail of water and dipped it into the well.
Yes.
You didn't help him, did you?
No, I didn't.
Because even at that stage, you said you didn't want to be anywhere near him.
Yeah.
You were holding the stick in your hand, weren't you?
Yes.
And as Jack turned around to go down the hill, you were behind him, weren't you?
Yes.
You couldn't face going down that hill with him, could you?
I guess.
You didn't want to be anywhere near him as you were going down the hill.
No.
Just a quick flick of the stick could make that easier for you, couldn't it?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
A quick flick of the stick would mean that Jack tripped over, wouldn't it?
Yes. I guess it would.
And that's what happened.
No.
You flicked the stick and Jack fell over. What you didn't think about was the water that spilt. The water spilled and you tripped on it and you went tumbling after Jack. And your mission was accomplished. You didn't have to have anything to do with him.
I don't know.
That's now giving you several different examples of cross in which what was important was the ideas that were contained within the questions, ideas that were contained for your benefit as you try and work out what happened between Jack and Jill on that hill. We hope you've enjoyed this short video and we look forward to making some more in the future.